a new reinvented FAGACE, the International Pan-African Organization reveals itself, to Africans and to the rest of the world. In less than 4 years, the financial institution achieved unprecedented and historic performances, exceeding more than 3 times those achieved between 1977 and 2020. 44 years after the creation of the African Economic Cooperation and Guarantee Fund, its Board of Governors is committed to deploying the full use of the institution's assets. It is in this context that the 7th General Manager in the history of FAGACE takes office with the main objective of realizing the real potential of the fund and the revelation of his genius. Dr. Ngeto Tirena Yambaye contributes his skills and solid experience as Minister of Economy, Planning and Development of the Republic of Chad, then as Administrator of the International Monetary Fund for Africa, in order to outline a guideline. This is the 2020 to 2025 strategic plan, which is mainly aimed at modernizing the institution and strengthening its governance. The strategic plan will be divided into 4 major axes, one of which will be entirely devoted to the development of the operational activities of the FAGACE. 4 years later, these innovations have given the institution a total of 4 products offered in 4 main categories: the portfolio guarantee, the individual guarantee, the wholesale guarantee, and finally the mobilization of resources.
Under the portfolio guarantee, I can tell you that the guarantee line that we grant to our partner banks allows them to grant competitions without prior authorization of the FAGACE to support the target, which is the SMEs of member states. You are no doubt aware that these SMEs and SMIs constitute the backbone of our economies and therefore often have difficulty having access to loans. As for the individual guarantee, it is a guarantee which is granted on a case-by-case basis. We support our partners, particularly financial institutions and funds deposits and consignments, GIs, which are intermediaries, financing structures on the financial market to enable the support and implementation of large-scale projects.
Financement sur le marché financier pour permettre l'accompagnement et la réalisation des projets d'envergure.
This guarantee that we are putting in place today, the individual guarantee, constitutes a real solution for our banks. For what? Because today, banks face regulatory constraints. The regulatory constraint of Ball 2, Ball 3 with huge capital requirements. And in view of this, the FAGACE through its guarantee brings them a very nice weighting, a significant weighting which today allows them to optimize their level of equity, to increase the level of support to the economy.
D'accroître les niveaux de concours à l'économie.
However, the individual guarantee increases. The FAGACE did not want to neglect any part from the economy. That is to say that this guarantee allows microfinances to have access to competitions and to support microcredits, even rural producers in our villages.
Accompagner les microcrédits, voire les producteurs ruraux dans nos villages.
The Cooperation and Resource Mobilization Service is a new service which is created with the new Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025. It has 2 parts, as its name suggests. There is the cooperation component, which is responsible for the membership of new shareholders, whether they are state shareholders or institutional shareholders. This is the department that is responsible for this relationship with the outside world, that is, cooperation. It is also cooperation with other partners. The second part is the part of resource mobilization. And these resources are financial resources.
In order to concretize the modernization of the Pan-African Guarantee Institution, the Director General creates the Independent Evaluation Office for Effective Action. He also created the FAGACE Institute with a scientific and warranty research.
This institute, in fact, highlights the different players in the ecosystem to be able to popularize the guarantee profession. To make it better known, particularly through training, capacity building, exchanges of experience at the level of the different actors in the ecosystem.
Des échanges d'expérience, au niveau des différents acteurs de l'écosystème.
This is the first aspect. The other aspect, you are not unaware that the financial world, especially the world of guarantees, is constantly evolving. So this institute is a think tank, that is to say a very advanced reflection center, which is proactive in the guarantee business and which calls for very deep reflections. The Independent Office of Evolution at the level of FAGACE is constituted exclusively of representatives of central banks in monetary zones covered by FAGACE. So currently we have 4 representatives at the Independent Evaluation Office who work in this organization. This is the first aspect at the governance level.
Dr. Ntuturaina Yambe, a good specialist in international and political and public finance, has left this mark of management and leadership in the governance of FAGACE to boost the performance that the fund has achieved in recent years. The results are not lacking, the figures are glowing and unprecedented.
Figures in terms of resource mobilization thanks to the guarantee in 2023 are at more than 795 billion in 2023. And this dynamism has made it possible to exceed the 4,500 billion CFA franc mark today mobilized in favor of the economies of our member states. And this diversification has also taken place in all countries of FAGACE not only to achieve exceptional figures, but has also to force itself over the past 3 years. To diversify its activity, to benefit all member states.
A diversifié son activité, a fait bénéficier tous les États membres.
What we can say is that we have first of all put in place all the necessary legal and administrative arsenal. All the necessary documentation, but also, at the same time, we have collected requests for resource mobilization. To date, we have requests for no less than 2,000 billion CFA francs. And of these amounts, we have already managed to fund around 600 billion, where we still have feedback from our partners, for both FAGACE and partners.
Et nous sommes en train de finaliser ces dossiers-là pour faire bénéficier aussi bien le FAGACE que les partenaires.
Le FAGACE a plutôt tiré son...
FAGACE has done rather well over the last 4 years. These last 4 years have been a period during which FAGACE activities experienced a certain growth, I would say strong growth even. We have also seen FAGACE increasingly refocus on its core business. That is, activities related to its core business. Guarantee represent the majority of the contribution to the realization of net banking income. So in addition to these gains, this improvement that we observe at the level of guarantee activities.
Donc en plus de ce regain, de cette embellie qu'on observe au niveau des activités de garantie,
we also have the fact that FAGACE is increasingly compliant, that is to say, the FAGACE is more and more in conformity with the different ratios to which it is subject.
Astreint, notamment les
in
ratios.
particular, the ratios of the central bank, the ratios of the CREPIMF, which is the Financial Market Authority, IFD ratios. It is the Association of African Development and Financing Institutions, and also finally, the ratios, which are specific to itself, the prudential ratios.
FAGACE has set up a whole system and an arsenal in terms of risk management while adopting and improving the quality of its products. So the two go hand in hand. Today, FAGACE has been able to multiply its commitment portfolio by even 5 or 6 times, while reducing everything that is risk. Today, we have a 98% healthy portfolio, which is beyond the standards of best practices.
Aujourd'hui, on a un portefeuille sain à hauteur de 98%, ce qui est au-delà des normes des meilleures pratiques.
The last FAGACE board meeting was held on July 16, 2024. So the Council recognized the performance and good health of FAGACE and congratulated its General Manager, its Chief Executive, as well as all the staff accompanying him. We work in a participatory management system, and the vision that we have developed within ourselves, is submitted for adoption by the Board of Governors, that is to say, that the 2021 to 2025 strategic plan was a very ambitious strategic plan. But today, in the implementation, we have far exceeded the objectives set. That is to say that today, FAGACE is achieving exceptional, positive results. It works in very good complicity and intelligence, with the entire banking and financial system, because we work in transparency and the credo of the 2021 to 2025 strategic plan. It is rigor, responsibility and accountability.
Nous travaillons dans la transparence et le credo du plan stratégique 2021-2025, c'est la rigueur, la responsabilité et la redevabilité.
The lion's share is given to the private sector, particularly players in the agro-industry sectors, industry, energy, infrastructure and real estate. With more than 60% of interventions for the benefit of development projects. Under the governance of Dr. Ngeto Tirena Yambae, the fund has not left public and para-public investments behind either. The beneficiary structures were qualitatively impacted. Thanks to the institutional support of the fund, several private companies on the continent are rising from the ashes and modernizing. The impacts are multiple, varied and across borders. The case of Premium Rice Industrial, an industrial unit, installed in the center of Benin, is a concrete example. Thanks to the fund's intervention mechanisms, this rice production and processing industry contribute to the fight against hunger, alongside public authorities. In Togo, FAGACE supports one of the leaders in construction. The SECO Group, a consortium of construction companies, thanks to the guarantee of the fund, obtains the necessary funding for the construction of the infrastructure.
FAGACE has helped Premium Rice much more to obtain financing from banks. Without which, Premium Rice would not have done everything it has done, and achieved its goals.
For the investments that we have planned to make over 5 years, 10 years. Thanks to the support of FAGACE with financial institutions, and the fund that we were able to mobilize, we were able to complete these projects in less than 2 years. So for us the impact is quite significant and very remarkable.
Initially, when I started working with FAGACE, it was only on big projects that were supposed to exceed $1 billion. Today, FAGACE, through the work that has been done, allows even human-scale projects to be financed, up to 50% or more. This solves part of the financial problem. This does not solve everything, because our banks must also slowly learn to finance the economy, which is not really the case today, except on very large state projects. But I think FAGACE is showing them that you can make money by guaranteeing loans for business development.
Des prêts pour le développement des entreprises.
We approached FAGACE and since September 20, 2021, we signed a strategic partnership agreement between FAGACE and UPC. And in this context, FAGACE has undertaken to provide us with financing guarantees.
Des garanties de financement. Voilà, quand nous avons des projets.
When we have projects that deserve financial support, we are approaching FAGACE, and FAGACE has already made financing arrangements for production of quotients or financing guarantees to us.
Caution ou de garantie de financement à notre égard. Le dernier, il date de.
The last one was June 1, 2024, not long ago. FAGACE has provided us with guarantees to access resources from banking institutions.
In Ivory Coast, Soleil Cacao, specialized in production, processing and export, benefits from the support of the Pan-African Institution, thanks to its transparent operating mode. The list of its partners in this country also includes the management and intermediation company MAC African.
It's true that when you're a new company, when you don't have a large presence, bank financing is complicated. We chose another path. We did it by issuing bonds on the Ivory Coast Stock Exchange, the BVRM. And to do this, we obtained from FAGACE a guarantee on this bond issued at 80% of the amount of the capital and interest. This gave confidence to bank investors and investment fund investors to subscribe to our bond issue. It was fully subscribed for an amount of 4 billion CFA francs.
We are delighted with this success and will continue to collaborate. We have other projects on the table that we are studying with FAGACE to multiply these successes.
Sur lequel on est en train d'étudier avec le FAGACE pour multiplier ces réussites-là.
La crédibilité et la note.
The credibility and reputation of the African Economic Cooperation and Guarantee Fund no longer need to be demonstrated to its partners. The institution, in its meteoric rise, has gained popularity, and not in a lesser proportion. The institution's general management and its board of directors are well aware of the importance of the credibility of the FAGACE signature at the international level.
The Vision and Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025 was developed by the CEO himself and his staff. We did not appeal to external firms to come and develop this plan. This is a first in the history of FAGACE, because we have to have confidence in ourselves. I have colleagues in front of me who know the house well. Why not use them? Because they know the institution better than anyone else. So, in developing the strategic plan, the first axis is the strengthening of good governance. The reform focused on strengthening the governance of FAGACE, then the strengthening of staff capacities. In my management philosophy, we can transform everyone. Human resources and human capital are fundamental. And when the rules of the game are clear in terms of governance, the responsibilities and commitments of each party are made clearly.
When I joined the board, I found that the new management that was recruited has put in place a strategy that should allow FAGACE to rise from its ashes. What I can say is that today, thanks to the general management, particularly the general director, Mr. Yambe, everything is falling into place. Today, FAGACE is being talked about in all financial circles. And I really appreciate this evolution that is starting to happen.
Mais aujourd'hui, on parle du FAGACE dans tous les milieux financiers. Et j'apprécie vraiment cette évolution qui est en train de se relever.
What the CEO did was recruit staff, new competent executives, to strengthen the FAGACE team. And in this work that has been done, it must be emphasized that all the member countries of FAGACE should be represented in the staff. And that is important and must be emphasized. And we must preserve this balance.
Dans le personnel. Et ça, c'est important, qu'il faut le souligner. Et cet équilibre-là, nous devons de le préserver.
Mais derrière
But behind these feats, which reflect the success of FAGACE operating methods, lies hidden the interaction between the fund and banking and stock exchange institutions. The CGF Bourse du Sénégal, the Sahel-Saharan Bank for Investment and Trade, and the central banks of these intervention zones are all delighted with the results of the new dynamic.
Se réjouissent toutes des résultats de la nouvelle dynamique.
The most recent was a fundraising to finance the construction of university residences in Senegal. And FAGACE had stepped in to support the issuer in achieving this fundraising. And I would even say that we completed the fundraising in 2 days, thanks to this guarantee. And investors were quite pleased with the structuring and intervention of FAGACE to secure the transaction.
Les investisseurs étaient assez satisfaits de la structuration et de l'intervention de FAGACE pour sécuriser la transaction.
Mon expérience personnelle.
My personal experience, in recent years, I have to say that FAGACE has played a role. I mean, we increasingly feel its impact, and its considerable contribution to financing, in our files. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely salute the General Director of FAGACE, who spares no effort, as well as his colleagues, to really support us, in quality, and on time. And that is to be welcomed. And I think if FAGACE continues like this, I think a lot of companies that don't know about it, many banks, that do not yet work with it should, in any case, approach this institution, because it brings us a lot, in terms of the activity plans, that I mentioned.
The developments of FAGACE over the period 2020 to 2024 are also materialized by the proactivity of its regional representations and offices, in the different areas it covers, on the continent. In Dakar in Senegal, in Kigali in Rwanda, in Douala in Cameroon, on behalf of Central Africa, the results are telling and very concrete. For example, the Rwandan industrial unit Maragran Millers Limited, obtained a loan of more than 140 million CFA francs, thanks to the FAGACE guarantee. This financing provided by the FAGACE guarantee had a direct impact on the farmers supplying corn and on the operationalization of this company's factory. The operation also supports the continued production of corn and its sale by local farmers, thereby creating jobs and other economic opportunities, which contribute to the reduction of poverty in this region of Africa.
Avec à la clé la création d'emplois et d'autres opportunités économiques qui contribuent à la réduction de la pauvreté dans cette région de l'Afrique. Sous la mandature du 7e...
Under the mandate of the 7th Director of FAGACE, this dynamic is also observed in the countries of Central Africa.
In the Central Africa region, where interventions were, in the past, very weak, the work we have carried out today has allowed us to quadruple the results of FAGACE interventions in this region. And we have impacted the different countries that are members of the institution, namely Cameroon, Chad, Congo, and Dakar. We are working today so that, like what is done in the UEMOA zone, the Central African zone can benefit from the opportunities offered by the financial tool, that is FAGACE, which is now essential in the context of financing development projects.
Qu'offre l'outil financier qu'est le FAGACE, qui est aujourd'hui indispensable dans le cadre du financement des projets de développement.
L'Afrique est en mutation.
Africa is changing, and FAGACE must integrate into this change, and above all, anticipate it, because as a financial institution, international finance is the forecast of rational anticipation. And with young executives, external partners, we are evaluated by our partners, the banks, the financial markets, who tell us, this is good, this is bad, adjust.
The finance ministers of the member states can be satisfied with the record of the 4 years of management of the Chadian diplomat, thanks to certain other levers that he has activated in his wind of reform. Recruitment of new executives and the balance of representation of nationalities.
The DAG has made every effort, in terms of human capital management, in collaboration with internationally renowned firms, to recruit additional quality human resources.
A procédé au recrutement de ressources humaines additionnelles de qualité.
I note that this is what gives credibility and seriousness to an institution, particularly in the guarantee sector. So, by renewing this trust, FAGACE has, once again, attracted financial institutions, such as banks and so on, towards it. I must also point out that since 2021, all contracts and agreements signed by FAGACE have been completed, meaning that there has been no damage. This shows the quality of the work that is done at FAGACE and the seriousness with which it is carried out.
Ça montre justement la qualité du travail qui est fait au niveau du FAGACE et le sérieux qu'on y met.
In terms of cooperation, Dr. Ngeto Tirena Yambaye, as a good diplomat, has succeeded in reaching several agreements in multiple and varied areas. Memoranda with public and private stakeholders and international organizations, which result in concrete actions and sharing of experiences. The presence of 4 executives from Mauritania within the institution is an illustrative example of the fruits of this cooperation.
Illustratif des fruits de cette coopération.
I have been able to see during these 6 months that there is a new dynamic taking hold within FAGACE, precisely with strategies with a fairly clear vision. And so, this is something important for all of us, for all African countries, for African economies.
Pour nous tous, pour tous les pays africains, pour les économies africaines.
Ce bilan a valu des
This record has earned recognition of merit for the General Manager and his team on the continent and abroad.
The perception that others have of me, sometimes I don't feel it. I sometimes see it coming a bit by surprise. And it is true that in 2023, I was distinguished 10 times around the issue of Champion of Good Governance and Best Manager of African Financial Institutions. It is a recognition. It is a recognition that the Board of Governors and the Board of Directors recognize in me the work that I am doing. But it is also a recognition of partner institutions. And in December in Dakar, I was awarded African of the Year and Champion of Good Governance by Africom Media.
Champion de la bonne gouvernance par Africom Media.
The full financing of international trade projects, new types of guarantees, and several other challenges remain in the FAGACE. They are engraved in golden letters within the ranks of the perspectives of the institution.
Most of the banking groups operating in our areas have problems with restrictions in relation to international operations. This is what we call the notions of de-risking. And to do this, for the coverage of the international credit indicator, these are quite complicated aspects for these Africans, and even for international banking groups, which are in the zone. Which means that the FAGACE intends to contribute its share to the building by guaranteeing the credit criteria, which will be granted by these different banks, established in our monetary zones, to be able to boost trade finance, including financing of international trade. This is an important aspect that we emphasize. On the other hand, we have the new challenges, that is to say, the new types of guarantees. We call the MT760s, the guarantees that follow.
One can only be in awe of what one sees. It is there, it only confirms the perception, finally, the conviction, that we have, that leadership is essential. FAGACE is essential. FAGACE has its own institutions, but our experience with FAGACE is unique, and we want to say it here. FAGACE is the alternative to the need to have real guarantees to obtain financing. FAGACE is a powerful instrument for mobilizing resources for businesses.
La nécessité de disposer des garanties réelles pour obtenir des financements. Donc, FAGACE est un instrument puissant de mobilisation des ressources pour les entreprises.
Comme le FAGACE.
As FAGACE is doing well today, the prospects I see will be even better, because today, we have 7 states that want to join FAGACE, English-speaking countries, because we stayed among ourselves, French speakers, for a long time. So they will join FAGACE, and international institutions, as well.
To our partners, I would say that FAGACE is constantly thinking about how to boost the economy of member countries. And today, we have a whole range of financial partners who are ready, both financially and technically, to come and invest in Africa and in the member countries of FAGACE. So we call on states not to hesitate, on banks not to hesitate, and the private sector, especially in the case of PPPs, not to hesitate to contact FAGACE.
From the fund's statistical data, it appears that the cumulative amount of credits mobilized has tripled over the period 2020 and the end of December 2023. The same applies to the cumulative amount of guarantees, which increased from 407 billion CFA francs to 1,051 billion over the same period. These performances recorded are possible thanks to the new strategic plan, which prioritize the good health of the economies of the continent to the detriment of the search for profits. Despite these unprecedented positive results, FAGACE intends to do even better. Faced with the continent's underfunding equation, since independence, the institution's authorities want to reverse the trend. More committed and determined than ever, the general management of FAGACE, its board of directors, and its board of governors, are working to establish the fund as an international public institution, and as Africa's leading financing provider, enabling it to increase its economic potential.
Qui lui permet d'accroître son potentiel économique.